Today on the Eurostep.
Dwane Casey is out of here.
We look at the draft stock of Luka Doncic.
The conference semis are done and we preview the conference finals. Hi, I'm Oisín Brown and this is the Eurostep on CRC. Today I'm joined by Cillian Loftus and Alex Evans.
The Raptors should hire LeVar Ball.
They should. Breaking news, this just in the last 20 minutes or so.
Vote bomb.
Alert, look out.
The Toronto Raptors have fired Coach of the Year Dwane Casey.
Well, probable.
Coach
of the year to be.
Probably.
After a franchise record 59 win season and getting the number one seed in the East, they got swept in the conference semis by LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Or should I just say LeBron James? But this just seems absolutely crazy. He was, even if he hasn't officially gotten Coach of the Year yet, he's been talked about as the Coach of the Year all season. And just, the way they played in the regular season, look, they did underperform in the second round of the playoffs and rightly deserve to be eliminated based on those performances. But to fire Dwane Casey after that, especially considering in the NBA, in comparison to some other sports leagues, they're actually somewhat loyal to coaches. So it's really shocking, Cillian.
It was talked about a bit, but I didn't really think it would happen. It's kind of shocking. He's a pretty good coach, and he did bits with the Toronto Raptors this year, I suppose you could say. I don't really see a plausible reason for it, really. It's either they're being thick, to be quite honest, or they're trying to blow it up, which would be amazing to see that LeBron James single-handedly destroyed a franchise.
That's my point.
That's why I said it. Looking at potential coaches on the market, I've been talking about them the whole time. My guy is Mike Budenholzer. We saw this year they moved more towards the team basketball that Budenholzer likes to play, so that would be perfect matchup. He has a great bench, a great starting lineup to work with, but I don't know what the Raptors are doing.
Yeah, it's completely shocking on the Toronto Raptors' part. I think most people kind of agree now that he's one of the better coaches, if not the best coach. Well, up there, whatever, but the best coach. He's not the best coach. Some people might think so if you're from Canada, maybe. But definitely one of the top coaches. He's definitely up there. Not only with his time in Toronto, but when he was with Dallas, he won a championship down there and was instrumental in stopping LeBron James when he was with the Miami Heat. And this year he shifted the mentality of the Raptors from their old ISO ball, which didn't seem to work, to this new team ball, which was at the start of the year was a different. Throughout the regular season, it was completely different to the Raptors we've seen of prior. But as Cillian mentioned, they just couldn't take the beating from LeBron James anymore. Back-to-back sweeps in the same round by LeBron when this was their year. This year they were supposed to win. They just couldn't do it. And, that's 7 seasons now for Casey with little success at all. So I think the Raptors, I wouldn't be surprised to see a full blow-up. Culture change completely. All the old guys, including coaches and everything, just got to change the way that team looks completely.
Yeah, it was first Paul George. He made Paul George run away to the Western Conference. Now it's the entire Toronto Raptors organization. It's a scary thing to say.
Yeah, even though I suppose we do disagree with them firing Dwane Casey, I can see why they did it. I mean, he has been the coach since 2011, and even though this has been their best season, they're still very underwhelming in the playoffs. And I suppose they've after getting that, I suppose the expectation there after having such a good regular season, I suppose the weight of expectation can kill you sometimes. And that's exactly what has happened. And I don't think it's unfair to say that the Raptors do need to blow it up to progress, because it seems no matter how they've changed it, they played a different style of basketball this year, and yet they've had the same end product, even though they did somewhat change it back to their old style in the playoffs. But I don't think it's unfair to say that the only way they can progress is to blow it up, and that starts by firing the coach.
Whatever about progressing forward the next couple of seasons, you've got to find another way. Bring something else out in Lowry and DeRozan. Because we've seen with time again with DeMar DeRozan, his inability to show up in the playoffs, especially this year, facing LeBron James, to do absolutely nothing. And that's, in all fairness to him, one of the better players in the league during the regular season to do nothing. Kyle Lowry, to be fair, showed up for once in the playoffs, but it wasn't enough with nothing else around him. There needs to be so much work done, and just changing the way guys think in Toronto from top to bottom of that organisation.
A full blow up might not necessarily be necessary. They have some good young pieces on that squad. Obviously, OG Anunoby, he's been great. Jonas Valanciunas is pretty young. DeRozan isn't ancient himself. It's Lowry's the main guy. Who's Lowry and Ibaka would be the main guys who are the wrong side of 30. Is I don't know what to say. I'm really shocked.
So you talked about Budenholzer as a potential replacement. Are there any other names that we should mention?
Jason Kidd. I know you're not a fan of his, actually.
No. Alex, is there any other?
Well, I think Mike Budenholzer might be the best fit. I think the Raptors are looking at him. The former Hawks coach, according to ESPN, is expected to get a close inspection for the Raptors' position as head coach. I think he might fit them well. We saw what he did in Atlanta with that 60-win team with so-called 4 All-Stars. I think he will get close consideration, but I don't know if any of them will be better than Dwane Casey. Obviously, you want to switch it up and try something new, because it's a good decision in you've got to try something else, because it wasn't working. It was never going to work until LeBron James was still in the league. So you've got to try something else, but I don't know if the something else will be near as successful.
Well, one name that has been thrown around for nearly every job for the last 2 seasons, really, is that of...
LeVar Ball.
No.
Oh.
Drake.
Not in the rest
Meek
of the
Mill?
league.
Kanye has to be.
I think so.
Becky Hammond.
Close.
I suppose
They're both feminine.
with I suppose the progressive worlds that we have these days, everyone wants to see, anyone who isn't a bit of
Sexist.
Yeah.
That's the word you're thinking of.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do want to see a female coach in professional sport and in the NBA. Obviously, she has been an assistant coach with the San Antonio Spurs, I believe. Mm-hmm. And, if you want to talk about something new, I think Becky Hammond, Pau Gasol even just said a few hours ago, she is well capable of coaching an NBA team. And I think
Becky Hammond can coach NBA basketball, period.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I thought you might like to know that one.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to see a woman coaching as a head coach of a basketball team in the NBA. But it's there are I suppose other jobs going as well that these coaches that we are throwing around. Toronto isn't the only vacancy. What I'm actually more interested in is to see who picks up Dwane Casey next. Will people look at this season when they're looking at him, or will they look at maybe the whole lot? And I suppose if you were to take this season out of account, you'd probably say he's a good coach, but he's not amazing. He's not on the level. Look, I'm not going to say anyone is going to be on the level of Greg Popovich, but the next tier, your Stevens, D'Antoni, Spoelstra, etc.
Yeah, Casey is definitely at that level, and the league we're looking at the minute, there is a lot of opportunities for him to get into a job, but the problem is there's no great teams, no good teams looking for a coach, no playoffs teams as such.
The Raptors would be the best team. They're not going to be hired him.
But a couple, again according to ESPN, I think Casey will definitely become one of the top candidates for most teams looking for a coach. I mean, the talent out there besides Casey is it's okay. There's a few names out there, but if you don't get one of them top names, you might get stuck with someone not as great. But some of the teams out there might be Detroit still looking for a coach.
Milwaukee.
Maybe with him under Blake Griffin, could be good to see with Stan Van Gundy obviously even, or Jeff Van Gundy.
Did Phoenix hire a new coach yet?
God knows.
Milwaukee, I think he'd be a great fit with Milwaukee because we saw, Joe Prunty wasn't an NBA coach from what we saw in the second half of the season. Just very poor plays, and it was all, especially when it came to playoff time, the 7 games they went with Boston, it was either give the ball to Giannis or give the ball to Chris Middleton and let them do something. That was that. If they could bring in more of an element of team game and bring back the current roster they have now, they have so many guys at other positions. The Raptors, they play the team ball, whatever, but you're not going to move the ball that much when you have guys like Serge Ibaka, Jonas Valanciunas on the block. But if you're looking at the Bucks, they could be playing a Thon Maker at centre, who we've seen point guard highlights from him in high school. Guys like Jabari Parker, so many versatile guys. And as well, I think Eric Bledsoe would dramatically improve in a Dwane Casey system. So I think that would personally be my best fit for Dwane Casey, but he could go anywhere.
Yeah, I think with the teams that are looking for coaches, there's no reason why Dwane Casey isn't first or second name on every list.
Mm-hmm.
This makes the Thunder decision to keep Billy Donovan for another year just extra worse. Yeah. Imagine Dwane Casey with that. I think that'd have been brilliant if he could get Westbrook to buy into team basketball. But we'll go back to the playoffs. All the semi-finals are over. The Warriors beat the Pelicans by 9 points.
Good maths.
By 9 points on
nearly
Tuesday night.
Messed that one up.
9 points.
Yeah, 9 points. Yeah. So Alex, I'll start with you. What you make of the series as a whole?
Nothing too surprising. I mean, the Golden State Warriors are the greatest team of all time. Won 73 games in the regular season. Let's not forget that much.
Without KD, who's also in the team.
Without KD. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. People were kind of expecting Pelicans to put up more of a fight after their very surprising sweep against Portland in the first series. They played them pretty well, Portland. Took one game off, or not Portland.
Golden State.
New Orleans.
Oh.
Played Golden State pretty well. Took a game off them. But the thing with New Orleans, they defended well against Lillard and McCollum. Lillard especially in the first round, but when you come up against the Warriors and who started using their death lineup, their Hamptons lineup with them 5 guys, their Curry, Thompson, Durant, Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala, you don't know what you're supposed to do. Fair enough, you can get Damian Lillard, slow him down, but when you have 5 all-stars to try and slow down, it's a very difficult thing.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of respect for the Pelicans. They got beaten in 5, but they put up a very good fight. I think we might be the best kind of fight we've seen out of a team in a playoff series against these Golden State Warriors. They probably did better than the Cavs did in last year's finals, which is a lot of respect for a 6-seed Western Conference team. It's nothing on the Pelicans, it's the Warriors. Everyone played well all series, really. Anthony Davis was a monster, Drew Holiday was great. Rondo wasn't too great in Game 5, but for the series as a whole, he was pretty good. It's just, this is the Warriors we're talking about. 4 All-Stars. You could say maybe 5 Hall of Famers with Andre Iguodala. It's absolutely outrageous how much talent they have.
Another player for the New Orleans Pelicans, Etuan Moore. He really stepped up in this series. Not a household name by any means in the NBA, but, adding to the other players you've already mentioned, I think the Pelicans can take a lot of positives out of this, especially considering they're missing their
superstar center.
The superstar center, best center in the league in Boogie Cousins.
There's a lot to be taken from it. Like you said, they were missing a bit of a similar situation to Boston. They were missing an all-star level player, but they still did well, put up a fight, swept Portland. No one could have predicted that, and they did well against Golden State. it's brilliant to see. And you know, if I'm DeMarcus Cousins, he's obviously a free agent this year. If I'm looking back at New Orleans and saying, like, they can do this without me, imagine what they could do with me.
Certainly for DeMarcus Cousins, you're looking at everywhere else in the league, and you know there's other teams are going to have to sacrifice so much in cap room and other players and whatever to try and get him. But with New Orleans, they can pretty much keep that whole core intact. Whatever, I think Rondo might be looking to come back as well. He says he wants to win a championship. He thought he might be able to win a championship in New Orleans this year. He said that was the goal, to go out there, not to win the first round series, but to go out and win a championship. Obviously, that didn't happen this year. But if you're looking into next season for the New Orleans Pelicans, with Anthony Davis only improving, Drew Holiday, you know, returning to his form that he had in Philadelphia a few years back, DeMarcus Cousins is only going to improve his game, as we've seen the last few years with adding a 3-point shot and adding far more moves. Once he comes back fully healthy, you have all them guys. And then you're looking at this year's free agency class as well. If you can pick up one or two even role players to add to your depth, which they don't have much of, the Pelicans, they could be a scary looking team for next year.
I mean, they're already scary even without DeMarcus Cousins. When you have any team, if they have Anthony Davis in their team, you know, you're going to be scared. They're going to, you know, you're not going to sleep as well at night. Even if you are the Golden State Warriors, you'd still much rather not have to face a player of that caliber. But yeah, look, the Warriors, they're the greatest team of all time for a reason, and they showed that against the Pelicans. The Pelicans would have probably taken at least 7 games any other team in the NBA. I think they are good enough.
Could even beat them in 6.
Possibly.
A lot of other teams.
Yeah. The other conference semi-final also finished in 5 games. The Rockets beat the Jazz. The last game by 10 points, 112 to 102, off of Chris Paul's monster game.
It wasn't just a monster; it was a monster game.
Yeah,
monster.
Yeah, come on. 41 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, shooting nearly 60%, 80% from 3. That's, you know, he was a man on a mission
with
in
no
that
turnovers.
Game. With no turnovers, he was a man on a mission. And you know, Donovan Mitchell did his absolute best until he got injured in the 4th. But this was always going to be Houston's series, and Chris Paul was finally to get to a Western Conference final.
Yeah, Chris Paul, you know, played fantastic, carried the Rockets to that win. But one thing I think is kind of overlooked, just because Chris Paul played so well, and this isn't taking anything away from Chris Paul, of course, but James Harden, that game, you know, an alright looking game, 18-4 for Harden, shooting horribly, to say the least. He put up 18 points and shot the same amount of shots from the field as Chris Paul did, and Chris Paul put up 41. Now, I know Chris Paul shot it well, but James Harden, that's not the last game you want to be playing before you head into this Golden State series, where this could be probably the biggest series of his career so far, because a lot of people have them as their favourites. A lot of people, you know, deluded people have them as the favourites going into this Western Conference Finals matchup. James Harden, I don't want to say a notorious choker, but it's shown flashes. Probably had one of the worst games of his career in Game 6 last year against San Antonio, when they were supposed to beat San Antonio as well. And he has got to beat the Warriors. Chris Paul has to almost perform like that most nights, and James Harden has to do something similar for them to have any chance.
Yeah, it's just as Alex said, it's not the kind of game you want to have going into Golden State. If he could have a 30-point game, just like, you know, normal James Harden, kind of send a bit of a message to Golden State, say, I'm here, and, you know, this is what I'm going to be all series long. He only shot 4 free throws as well in Game 5 against the Jazz, which is not on the level of James Harden. But Alex showed me a stat earlier, something like Klay Thompson has never fouled James Harden in their last 11 games playing against him, which is outrageous considering James Harden. Well, you know,
we know that's going to change this series, but
yeah.
even Klay Thompson, we know, will slow him down. And to play like that against a Utah team with not much perimeter defense, Donovan Mitchell at the point guard, who, he's trying to relax a bit on defense because he's carrying that squad on offense. Royce O'Neal, another rookie at the 2 guard, or Joe Ingles at the 3. James Harden should be dominating that trio and getting inside, getting whatever shot he likes, especially when there's so much tension on Chris Paul in a game like that when he's playing so well.
Yeah, but just talking about the Jazz, they should be very proud of themselves, to be best way to really say it. They got the 5 seed, absolutely brilliant. And they won the first round, obviously, against the OKC Thunder. Wasn't even close. And they put up a fight against Houston. They did really well. All their team played well. Donovan Mitchell, obviously, was great. Even guys like Alec Burks off the bench. Derek Favors wasn't bad. They did their part. And they're a very young team as well.
Especially without their facilitator, probably their third best player on that team. The guy that kind of runs the offense for them almost, in Ricky Rubio, who didn't get to play a single game in round 2. They missed Dante Exum, who was a force, who's starting to show that he can be an NBA player after a few disappointing years from Australia. But Donovan Mitchell has just been phenomenal and should be so proud of himself heading into this off-season. Definitely already cemented his place as a star in the league. He put up 24 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists in Game 5 in only 34 minutes.
20-point third quarter.
22 points in the third quarter, which is just ridiculous. Going back and forth to Chris Paul, and so many players coming out and saying the amount of respect they have for Mitchell after such a performance. Gaining all the attention from the Rockets. The Rockets trying to slow him down and can still do his work. We saw Ben Simmons, the other Rookie of the Year candidate. The Celtics really slowed him down and he wasn't having much success at all. But Mitchell was giving his heart, and definitely going forward, he said that he's probably going to watch all 90-something games back and try and improve on what he did this year. So if he can do that and just continue that work ethic throughout his whole career, he's definitely going to be one of the greats.
Yeah, I feel like the way Donovan Mitchell played for the third quarter and the I suppose the half of the fourth quarter that he played before he got injured, I think if he stayed on the court, there is a chance that the Jazz would have won that game and taken it to
6, maybe
7.
6,
maybe even 7. I feel like they did deserve that. They didn't deserve to win the series outright, but five games, that doesn't really do the Jazz justice. But at the same time, if you offered that series to Utah, going into that round, I think they would have probably taken it, because even though they didn't get the result, their performance was there for 4 of the 5 games, really.
Yeah. I'd just like to bring up something there. As Ushin said, the Rockets were fairly comfortable leading at halftime, and Utah brought it back all the way, and they outscored the Rockets 32-21. Donovan Mitchell outscored the Rockets, one of the most explosive offenses in the league, as I've said time and time again. He outscored them in the third quarter in the playoffs in Game 5.
This is the team who's put up a 50-point quarter before.
And then Houston came back and beat them 37-24 in that fourth quarter, and Mitchell only came back for about the last 5 minutes of that quarter. So again, as Lushin said, if he could stay in for the majority of that time, definitely think Utah would have been with a chance. And they've shown good form at home as they really get behind him there in Salt Lake City. I think they could have made some noise with everybody winning, but they would have put it up to Houston.
Yeah, it's very exciting if you're a Utah fan going into the next few seasons. They have a really good core there. Maybe they might need to add 1 or 2 pieces.
Just as you got depressed about Gordon Hayward leaving. You get blessed.
Yeah, nobody expected them to do anything this year. And then if you told someone at the start of the season that they were going to do that without their presumable next big star in Rodney Hood, obviously we've seen what happened with Rodney Hood this season, but yeah, that's, I think the Jazz fans sure as hell would have taken that. But now we can preview the Western Conference Finals that we always knew was going to happen. The Houston Rockets against the Golden State Warriors. Just an interesting stat before we get into this and talk about how the two teams will match up. This is the first time since Steve Kerr has become manager of the head coach of the Golden State Warriors that they have had an away series in the playoffs. That's phenomenal, and I think it speaks lengths about the greatness of this Warriors team. But look, this is the 1 seed against the 2 seed, and well, I think a lot of people are surprisingly going with Houston. They are the underdog still, but considering the greatness that we always talk about and associate with the Golden State Warriors, a lot of people think Houston have a chance in this.
Good on. Yeah, as Lushin said, but just as regards to this being the Warriors' first away series, I think it also goes to show about Steve Kerr. After their 73-win season where they were the out-and-out favourites, they were gassed because they went for the 73 wins when they could have been kind of relaxing and coasting like all the other teams were doing the last portion of the season. And no, they went for it completely, and they've learned from that. As we've seen now the past 2 years with the Warriors, they've taken a handy during the regular season. They haven't stressed themselves out too much, and obviously only getting the 2 seed this year. But going into this series with the Rockets, I definitely think it'll be an exciting one. Steve Kerr, I think, feels confident. He said when asked about the mentality of his guys going into the series, he said, I like where we are. Our guys have rings, which might be a shot at Houston, who haven't proven themselves yet. But if they can do anything in this series, Houston, it'll show how much they want, and because they really do need to prove themselves, because being the favourites or whatever, they haven't shown anything.
Yeah, they really need to prove themselves in this series. It'll be a good series no matter how quickly it ends up. It'll be interesting to see how the Rockets do match up with the Warriors. Like Alex said, the Warriors haven't tried at all this regular season. They had a worse record than the Raptors. And they could have easily won 70 games if they tried.
How did that fare out for the Raptors?
Could have easily won 70 games if they tried, if they wanted, but they just didn't want it. They know rest and energy means more than a home court advantage, especially when you're that good. It'll be a tough series for the Rockets, obviously. Steph Curry always beats Chris Paul, no matter what kind of stage it is. He always cooks Chris Paul. He hits half-court shots, everything over him. We all know the ankle breaker. Trips.
The double behind the back. Whoop, which way did it go? The Steph Curry on the Clippers, in between 4 Clippers defenders, step back. Steve Kerr throws his hands up in frustration.
Yeah. He always does well against Chris Paul.
But as well, the Rockets are great, whatever. They've got Chris Paul, James Harden, and Clint Capella as their 3 guys. But on the defensive end, you're looking to guard Chris Paul and James Harden, and if you can slow them down, that's great. But then the Warriors coming down the court on the offensive side have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala. You can't guard all 5 of them. I think the Warriors, we've shown Steve Kerr how good of a defensive coach he can be and how well he can set up against teams. We've seen it with LeBron James, how he manages to defend LeBron. And it's just, I don't think the Rockets have enough, which is weird to say since they've been top 5 in both categories all year. They just don't have enough to beat these Warriors, I don't think.
Yeah, and James Harden really needs to kind of prove himself. He hasn't shown to be much of a playoff performer in his star role at Houston. He's had some pretty bad games so far these playoffs where he shot 30% from the field.
Not only does he have to perform, he has to be phenomenal.
40-point near triple-doubles every game.
MVP James Harden alongside Chris Paul doing his bit, and he has to play defense as well.
It's going to be tough. Can he do it?
I can't remember the exact numbers, but I saw that there has never been a playoff series with 2 teams with an offensive rating so high, and we're gonna see some amazing basketball on both sides of the floor, and I think that Houston, they will be so motivated if they don't, provide they don't cave under the pressure of a conference finals. I think we could see a very exciting series, even if it only goes to 5 or 6 games. Each game will be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do think this is also, well, from my memory, one of the first years where I think the lower seeds or the higher seeds, if the higher seeds win in both Eastern Conference or both conference finals, it'll be the upset. Obviously, the 2 seed Warriors are kind of expected to beat the 1 seed Rockets, and the 3 seed Cavs are expected to beat the 2 seed Celtics. It's strange to think about, yeah.
Yeah, gotta love this modern NBA.
I think the most important question about this Houston Golden State series is, will we be staying up to watch the games?
Yes. Come on.
Yeah,
Game 1 starts at 2 a.m.
That it? That's fine. Can't wait for the 3:30 starts.
I think they're actually...
Be bright when you finish.
I might be mistaken, but I don't think there are any 3:30s in
Well, there actually aren't.
conference finals.
Nice.
Yeah.
Only in the finals.
1 a.m. 2 a.m.'s the latest. That's not bad, actually.
Yeah, that's solid.
Only up to 3:30, like.
Yeah, you can actually go back to sleep after
4,
that.
4 hour sleep, school, sound. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
It's 3 for me, but, you know, I could just not go to school. I mean, it's only TY. But, yeah, the all-important, how many games will this go to? I'll start with you, Alex.
It really is hard to know.
Or, sorry, who will win first?
We know. We've been saying this over and over again.
I think Golden State are going to win.
How many games?
Do you know what now? Golden State in 4.
Whoa!
That's bold.
That's very bold.
I said Celtics in 4 and nearly worked out, so
Nearly.
who knows? I'll say Golden State.
I think Harden will choke. Chris Paul, much the same.
Capella will be a monster.
Capella will play well, even though Draymond Green can get anyone in the NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Clint Capella has also shown that he can guard pretty much anyone in the NBA as well.
So you want him to get Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, all them guys at once. He's great, but he's not that good. And I expect the Warriors just to go completely off. Just mental stuff.
It's almost impossible to predict a playoff series before it even starts, but we'll go Golden State in 5 or 6. 5.
See, I didn't want to say the Warriors in 6, but since no one else has, I'll be the optimist and say that, you know, Houston are going to do something. I think that, you know, like I've said, if they don't cave under the pressure, they will play some brilliant basketball. Yeah. And I suppose as a neutral in this series, you would have to hope that that is the case. And yeah, so I'm not too uncomfortable with saying the Warriors in 6. I think the Rockets, you know, they have shown that they are good enough to perform. It's just there's only so much you can do.
Without a doubt, you can't count out the Rockets. They're not a bad team. They're 60-win 1 seed with the MVP.
They can win. It's just I don't think they will.
One of the best point guards of all time, along with some other good pieces, and one of the best offensive coaches
ever.
You know, they're not a bad team either, but it's just this Warriors team is another level.
Okay, so that is the Warriors in 4, 5, and 6.
Guarantee it goes to 7.
Well, it's not going to finish in 3, is it?
Go to 8.
Rockets in 8.
The Rockets in 8. That really sounds like a resources hashtag. Anyway, so just before we go to the Eastern Conference Finals, there was another game in the Eastern Conference Semi-Finals. Since we last aired, the Celtics won Game 5 against the Sixers by 2 points, 114 to 112. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum combining for 49 points, and the rest of the team played brilliantly as well. So you know, I don't think the Sixers, they can't. It's hard to judge the Sixers from this series. They played well. There was two games in the series that were comfortable wins. Boston Game 1 and Philly in Game 4. The other 3 games, and Alex, you know, that this is his point as well, but.
There we go. Just waiting to make sure I got the credit again. Yeah. Yet again.
Don't worry, I'm not going to take all of it, but you know, I suppose they can hold their heads high to some extent with regards to how they performed, and I suppose they are a young team, even though Boston are a young team as well. But you know, they can be a little bit disappointed in the fact that this was over in 5 games.
Yeah, they definitely showed their age, Philadelphia. As Lushin said, game 1 and 4 are decisive victories, but game 2, 3 and 5 were all in Philadelphia's hands, and in Philadelphia it was the Sixers to lose. You know, they had it, whatever. They were up by 22 in game 2. They lost in overtime.
Up
yes,
4 with a minute.
Marco Bellinelli hit that great shot to tie it, but even in regulation they should have won that game. They had a lot of opportunities, gave the ball away to even put themselves in that position.
The Ben Simmons dunk.
And then they were up, and then they were up again in overtime and blew that as well. And then game 5 just completely collapsing and losing the series. So just, I know they're young, but so much hype and so much, there is veterans there and they're great players, but it's just they shouldn't be losing like that. They should be putting up an effort, and if they lose, they get blown out, whatever. They tried their best, but like that series could have gone either way, easy. Like if you were sitting here saying Sixers beating them 4-1, it wouldn't be that much of a surprise.
Yes, it would, but no. It's just, yeah, like Alex said, the Sixers really show their age. Ben Simmons really struggled throughout the whole series. Really, he put up some decent numbers, but he had to work very hard just to get 2 points against the Celtics. They really focused in on him on defense, completely sagged off on him. That made it hard for other guys like Embiid and Saric to score baskets because they could be double teamed so easily. That's really what turned the series in Celtics' favour. It's just Simmons really couldn't do much offensively, and we saw as well when TJ McConnell came in, he gave them a big spark. It really opened up the floor for everyone else. And it might sound crazy to say, but the Sixers were a lot better with TJ McConnell on the floor rather than Ben Simmons.
And the stats backed it up as well.
Yeah.
They had a fair better plus minus when Ben Simmons, not even when TJ McConnell, but when Ben Simmons was off the floor, they were a better team than when Ben Simmons was on the floor. A lot being said for your quote-unquote rookie of the year. Ooh.
Regular season award. But anyway,
Jason Tatum's my rookie of the year, so I don't know what you're saying.
I think that, look, I mean, this could very
Tank
likely
for
be
4
wrong.
years just to win one playoff series. Congratulations, Philadelphia.
You played yourself.
No, like when we're comparing the rookies of the year, I think people didn't realise just how important Ben Simmons is to the 76ers. I think people just kind of thought, well, Joel Embiid is there, so therefore Ben Simmons doesn't have as much work to do as Donovan Mitchell and so on. But I think it showed when you could lock down Ben Simmons, the rest of the team weren't able to pull that weight. Ben Simmons, through his poor performance and him being locked down, has shown just how valuable he is to the team. And I'm not saying that this should improve his stock for Rookie of the Year, but I think it does show his value to the team.
Yeah, and we've been talking a lot about how poor the Sixers have been playing in that series, but you got to give Boston credit. They played brilliantly, especially in the clutch. Like Alex said, they pulled back a 22-point deficit in Game 2. They won Game 3 after being down 4 points with a minute left in overtime. And in Game 5 as well, they were down 4 with a minute 30 left. They really came through in the clutch. It was great to see. Jason Tatum completely outplayed Ben Simmons. There's no point debating it. I believe he was 5th in the whole NBA in semi-final scoring, points per game. Only behind the likes of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. It's absolutely brilliant to see. He's really taken a step forward after being a kind of a raw prospect in the regular season. He's been absolutely incredible. I hope he brings that forward into the conference finals, where he can maybe expose some Cavaliers defense, but we'll talk about that later.
Speaking of defense, when Jason Tatum was asked about how they're going to guard LeBron, not the most positive response if you're a Celtics fan. Jason Tatum says, I don't know. I'm in my first year, I haven't played him, I don't know. That's not what you say, regardless. You say, listen, we've got a great coach, we'll figure it out. You don't say, I don't know. Just shows what the Celtics are mentally going into the series against the GOAT. What?
Maybe it's hustle, pretending they don't know what to do, but when really they do.
LeBron gets overconfident, then they're like, boom.
LeBron doesn't get overconfident. Come on.
Overconfident on someone else is just regular for LeBron.
I mean, like, I think you have the right to be confident when you're the GOAT.
A little bit.
Maybe. So we will talk about the Eastern Conference Finals. These Boston Celtics are playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. Boston have home advantage, but the Cavs have LeBron. And I think, the Celtics have proven everyone wrong in these playoffs. And, Cleveland in the second round proved a lot of people wrong, namely me and Killian. Mm-hmm. But, and again, apologies for ever underestimating LeBron. But I think this will be one step too far for the Boston Celtics. But then again, you never know. It is the NBA playoffs, and anything can happen in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know. LeBron James could go off for a 40-point triple-double, which is a lot more likely than the Celtics winning this series, I think. The Celtics have been great, don't get me wrong. This is me hating on the Celtics. To beat the Bucks in close fashion was great. To dismantle the Sixers in 5 when many people thought they were a lock to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. This is LeBron James, who just swept 59-win 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Like, different animal. He's been doing it for 15 years now in his 15th season. He's shown time and time again that he always shows up against Boston, always puts on a show. Scored 45 points, I believe, for the Heat back a couple of years ago against Boston in the TD Garden. So LeBron's going to be there. And if he can get any sort of help from his teammates like he got in that conference semis, it'll be a walk. But that being said, if we see something like the Pacers series where LeBron is making some mistakes, which he could well be doing against a great defense from the Celtics, who'll really be locked in on him, and not much help from his teammates, also like we saw in Indiana, this could be a very different series.
Yeah, Boston needs to play the Cavs like Indiana did. And if they do, I definitely think, call me crazy, I definitely think Boston can win this series if they play it like Indiana do. Let LeBron do whatever he wants. As long as nobody else does anything, we're fine. LeBron James can't score 100 points. He can't. Surely.
Well.
The Celtics have the defenders to guard guys like Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, Kevin Love. There's no doubt in that. That's what they need to do. They need to defend everyone else on the court. Let LeBron James do his thing and then expose the poor defenders on the Cavs side. We saw it in the Sixers series. Jason Tatum was matched up with your JJ Redicks, your Marco Bellinellis. They just simply can't guard him. It's going to be the same with the Cavs. J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver, guys like that, they just can't guard your Jason Tatum's, Jaylen Brown, even Terry Rozier. It's going to be a massive advantage the Celtics have. If they can take advantage of that, they have a very good chance of winning this series.
If they play them right, which they will, I think, under Brad Stevens, of course,
we're talking about.
They'll definitely have a chance. But I think the other Cavs and LeBron's teammates have really got some confidence under them after that sweep. They're in a good place at the minute, and LeBron has so much experience. That crazy stat, we'll get it now. LeBron has more minutes than
9,500 to about 8,000 minutes.
Then to all the players who've played for the Celtics in this year's playoffs. It's just phenomenal. It's just mental. And so much being said for the Celtics. They've been great. They haven't, on this stage, this is last 4 teams left in this NBA season against arguably the greatest player of all time. They're going to have to step up and be great.
Yeah, look, I firmly believe that Boston can win, but it all comes down to LeBron's teammates, I think, and firstly how they perform and secondly how they're defended. If they do not turn up like they didn't for most of the regular season and good portions of the series against the Pacers, then Boston can definitely go out and give Cleveland a run for their money. But I just think that after gaining their confidence against Toronto, sweeping the 1 seed, and the manner in which they played, even if one of them was having a bad game, they still played. They still got through it, and I think that this is going to be Warriors against Cleveland, Part 4.
No, that's all I have to say to you. So predictions?
I think that's I'll go Cleveland in 6.
Oh, man. Alex.
See, I was going to say Cleveland 6 by good reasoning, because Boston are a good home team, and I think just Cleveland take a game off them and then close it out in the queue. But I'm going to have to switch it up now. I don't want to say 5 because that's a bit boring. So Cleveland in 4.
No. 2
2 sweeps in the conference finals. Watch it.
I'm going to be realistic, Alex. Boston 7. 3 ESPN analysts said we'd beat Philly. 3 said we'd beat Cleveland. And Charles Barkley said Cleveland were going to win. So we have a massive advantage.
No, I swapped Boston in 4.
It's the Charles Barkley effect.
One thing we can
let me get Cleveland in 5.
Okay. One thing we can say is that even though the Western Conference we probably see better basketball, this series definitely has more intrigue to it, I think.
I think it'll be the better series, definitely.
Yeah. So that wraps up our preview of the 2 conference finals. But for the last 5 minutes or so, we are going to be returning to the NBA draft, and this time we're looking at Luka Doncic.
Luka. I don't know what that was.
Luka.
The man who plays for Real Madrid in the Euro League, Euro Cup, and ACB. He is well, at times he is regarded as a potential number 1 pick. It doesn't look like he will be, but he's going anywhere between 2 and 6, depending on where you look. Well, I think 6 is an absolute joke.
I think he's a consensus top 3 pick.
Some places have him 7, 8. I don't know what they're at.
No matter who of the top 3, he'll be a top 3 pick.
Yeah.
More than likely a top 2, and depending on who gets the number 1, there's a good chance he could go number 1 also.
Yeah, he is averaging 14.6 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, 4.6 assists per game, and a steal per game. He is broken all the metrics for how NBA scouts measure European players. That's how good he is. And, we have seen some players come from Europe. Some of them have been brilliant and some of them have been absolute busts. But Luka Doncic arguably has the highest ceiling ever for a European prospect.
Probably. He's an absolutely unreal prospect. He's been playing EuroLeague since he was 16 years old, which is crazy. It kind of makes us think, like, what are we doing with our lives? Whereas that you're talking about him when he's actually out there doing it. But he's absolutely unreal. The numbers, Oshin said them, 14, 6 and 5 about. They don't exactly jump out at you, but you have to remember this is EuroLeague. Stats
professional basketball players, a lot of them who've played in the NBA.
We talk about team ball in the NBA. This is another level of team ball. Stats go completely out the window. You could be the leading scorer in the EuroLeague and average 17 points per game. It's really just about team and getting the whole team to work as a unit, getting everyone the ball. It's not about personal stats. 14, 6 and 5 is amazing stats.
As well as that, they play 10-minute quarters for 4 quarters, so a 40-minute game. And it's a lot slower pace. It's a different game to college and NBA completely. But Luka Doncic, he's a great prospect. He's 6'8", kind of combo guard. He's a bit like a Ben Simmons we saw from Slovenia, and he's been playing for Real Madrid now for a good few years. His stats look nice, as Lushin said, for what he does, but he only plays 25 minutes. His per 36 stats look a lot more attractive with 21, 7 and 8. So that kind of stands out more to you, and they're kind of more the minutes he'll be playing in the NBA. He's showing flashes of how good he can be. He became the youngest player to record a triple-double in the Liga ACB just on Wednesday, just gone by, with 17, 10 and 10. Goran Dragic, his teammate for Slovenia, an NBA All-Star, said that he is a born winner and that he will be one of the best in the world, in the whole world. Coming from an NBA player, you know,
Especially
an
an
All-Star
All-Star.
this year, you know, that's a lot. That's saying something. So he's proven himself already. So if he can keep that up, you know.
Yeah. It's crazy to see as well. We see the guys like Ayton, Bagley, those guys absolutely dominating college ball. This is EuroLeague. It's hands down the best professional league in the world, excluding the NBA. And he's 19, he's one of the best players in the league. He has a very good chance of winning EuroLeague MVP when it's announced. I'm pretty sure it's coming soon up. He's a member of the All-EuroLeague first team for the 2018 season. He won the EuroLeague Rising Star Award for 2017 and 18. And even we go look at international ball, you mentioned he plays with Slovenia alongside Goran Dragic. They won the Eurobasket in 2017, and he was named for the all-tournament team in that as well. So it's not like Dragic carried him. He worked with that
I
team.
believe he was the 8th highest scorer in that whole competition, which coming for an 18-year-old at the time was phenomenal. But going back to his EuroLeague stats, he makes over 60% from 2, which is fantastic. Obviously, he needs some improvement from 3, only shooting about 30%. His free throws are already up there, 80% from the free throw line on 5 attempts. But outside of those specific stats, individual stats, he is a massive difference. He is on course to put up one of the highest plus-minus marks in EuroLeague history as just a 19-year-old for Real Madrid. You know, supposed to be an inexperienced guy. That's a phenomenal stat. You know, they're the kind of stats that don't show up in the box score. He's like gonna be a leader. He has that poise and that composure about him. We've seen how he's leading this Real team to a lot of wins. Remember, he hit that game-winning 3 right at the buzzer, just ice cold, when he's not that good of a 3-point shooter, and alongside many other highlight plays. Definitely, aside from his own individual stats, he can get his teammates involved and just make the team better.
Yeah. Thing you mentioned is 3-point shooting. Obviously, it's not great in terms of efficiency. He shot 33% from the 3-point line in the EuroLeague, which isn't great, but he has very good mechanics. It's not like he's like Lonzo Ball kind of thing where he's like, why are you shooting it like that? He has great mechanics. He's shown that he can make 3-pointers, especially pull-ups in people's faces, step backs.
Need to.
Yeah, it's just something he can work on. It's not a massive flaw in his game. When you're looking at him as an overall prospect, he's hands down the most skilled player in the draft, without a question. There's some very
right now he's probably the best player in the draft.
Yeah,
polished-wise, he's going to come straight into the NBA.
Easily the best player in the draft.
He's going to come into the NBA and probably have success right off the bat.
Yeah,
a lot of the college players kind of come in, especially the one and dones, might be a little bit unfinished or a bit raw. Like, more than likely we'll see with Ayton, he will only improve. Doncic will come in and be right from the get-go. He should be good.
Yeah.
Just finally, as we've said, the draft lottery hasn't happened yet, but where would you like to see him be drafted?
Not Memphis.
I don't want anyone to go to Memphis, like, honestly.
You want a big market for a guy like Doncic, where he can be a superstar. He has the potential. It's just, will he get there? He needs a big market for that. There's not too many. Looking down the list, Chicago might be a good option, but he might struggle for minutes there with the backcourt of Chris Dunn and Zach LaVine. Atlanta's another pretty poor team that he could go to. They have some decent young players like John Collins. John Collins has been great this year. Talking a lot, 50 minutes straight, but you know, Atlanta's good. Phoenix, not likely. They're probably going to draft Ayton if they get number 1. It's only maybe if they fall and they can't trade up, they might take a guy like Doncic to make an absolutely unreal backcourt with Doncic and Booker.
There's a few teams that would be very exciting to see, but there's a few others that might go well with Doncic. Looking at the Dallas Mavericks, they finished, you know, for a very poor season and will have, I believe, top 3 odds at the number 1 pick. So if they can jump up to 2, providing Ayton goes number 1, a backcourt of Dennis Smith Jr., who has the explosiveness, and then Luka Doncic, who has the craftiness and the skill, they could both learn from each other, and I mean, Smith will be going into his second year.
And then Doncic will be in a
his
dunk
rookie
contest.
year. Like, they'll both be improving together, which will be fantastic to see. As well as that, if a team like the Hornets or even the Knicks could luck out, you know, they don't have great odds at the minute, but if they could get some luck, you know, a backcourt of Kemba Walker and Luka Doncic could be scary as well. Or also, finally, the Brooklyn Nets, if they could look out, obviously that pick is going to Cleveland. Luka Doncic under LeBron James could be pretty exciting.
Could be.
Also, you look at the Lakers; they're a pretty poor team. You know,
Not getting their pick.
yeah, but if they get lucky in the lottery, get the number 1 pick, that goes to the Philadelphia 76ers, and they're not going to take DeAndre Ayton with Joel Embiid. Goes to Sixers if it goes number 1, Boston 2 through 5, Philly everywhere else. So you're looking at Philly and Boston, there's a chance. Not very high, but there's a chance.
But
Then he goes to Boston.
Philly or Boston.
Well, could happen.
Who would Boston? No, the Boston would take like Bagley. They need front court stuff, but
Yeah, they trade down and get the best player in the draft.
yeah, look, Luka Doncic is wow. It's hard to put words to a prospect like that. I mean, depending on who you ask, he could be the most exciting prospect since LeBron James, and you know that's some company to be in. But that is it until next Wednesday.
As we are severely over time.
Yeah, but you know, it's
So
all
you made it to this far. Congratulations.
not a hope.
Alright, so make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Check us out on social media. We are Team Eurostep on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, if you enjoy our content, please support us on Patreon as much or as little as €1 a month helps immensely.
Nice.
So until next time, that's going to be a goodbye from Killian,
Yay.
goodbye from Alex,
Bye.
and a goodbye from me. Until next time, keep grinding.